Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Dharma Helper, and this is DH Reviews. This is my Season 2, Episode 2 review of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. If you missed my Season 2, Episode 1 review, that'll be linked in the description of this video, as well as annotated somewhere here on the screen. Earlier this week, I put out my Season 1, Episode 2 review of Gotham, which will also be annotated here on the screen, and then linked in the description of this video. With that said, this review is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to try a slightly different format and see what kind of works, and experiment here and try to gain what you guys enjoy watching the most here on the channel. This episode was essentially a lot of resolution from the previous episode. In the previous episode, they set up this whole absorbing man thing, and they introduced the obelisk. And in this episode, a lot of that gets resolved, and we learn a little bit more about the obelisk, and we see the main contender, the main villain of this season start to take shape in this episode. We start off, we see Hunter is in the car crash, and he has a conversation with May, and then, it's basically confirming that his team is dead, and then May goes and she pursues the absorbing man, and Hunter is captured essentially by Talbot, and almost kind of intimidated in that helicopter ride. And Talbot and Hunter have this back and forth in conversation about essentially trying to get Hunter to turn on Coulson and to turn on S.H.I.E.L.D. And meanwhile, May is watching, the absorbing man, and she thinks she can get a shot, and she can't, get the okay from Coulson to go ahead and take that shot. So she's basically watching him, and then we see the absorbing man in the diner, and he kind of has this whole thing about he's absorbed the obelisk, and when he touches the waitress, he takes the properties of the obelisk and transfers it to the waitress, and she turns to stone and dies. And so we see this sort of, he's losing control of the abilities that he's got, and whatever the obelisk is, it's kind of infected him almost. And so maybe that was Hydra's plan the whole time. And he has a conversation with the Hydra handler, and the Hydra handler basically tells him to calm down and all this stuff. And it's kind of skeevy and sketchy, and it's like maybe they were turning him into a killing monster or something like that. And then we see in terms of what S.H.I.E.L.D's doing, we see a lot of like I said, Coulson's hard decision making and the weight that's having on him, but we also see the more of the Fitz dynamic and more of the consequences of Fitz's mental condition and the strain that's having on the team as a whole. But one thing that I wanted to talk about last review that I didn't really have an articulate way to talk about, that's something that bothered me in that first episode, is we saw Fitz, and we saw his how his condition has affected the team, and then we saw Grant, and how Grant was pretty much out of it and oblivious and focused entirely on S.H.I.E.L.D. And what I would like to have seen is a Grant-Fitz confrontation. I think that if Grant saw what he did to Fitz, it would really drive home the gravity of what he's done, because I don't think he gets it, and I don't think he understands, his betrayal and everything like that. I think he's so focused and so obsessed with S.H.I.E.L.D. that he doesn't understand what he's done. I don't think, when he tried to kill himself in that first episode, he talks about all these times he tried to kill himself. I don't think that was out of guilt or anything. I think that was, again, this weird obsession with S.H.I.E.L.D. trying to manifest. And like I said in my first review, I don't like the way that they're taking Grant's character this season, and it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like it makes sense in terms of the way the story's going. But I would like to see that confrontation where we see Fitz and Grant face to face, and really try to drive home that point of it's not all about S.H.I.E.L.D. and Grant, and that kind of dynamic is a little bit weird for the show to take. But Fitz in this episode because they recover the cloaking technology and the stealth technology from the Quinjet, and Fitz in this episode has to deal with that, and he doesn't take it quite well. He and Simmons, his imaginary Simmons, talk about, you were so close, you almost had it, and if they could have just waited a little bit more, trusted you a little bit more, and all these different scientists are looking at you kind of sketchy, and maybe we should take up this absorbing man case. And so he takes up the absorbing man case out of basically trying to show up these scientists and prove the point that he's got, he's still got something up there and he can still figure stuff out. And in this episode, we see him develop a relationship with Mac, who is a new character. And Mac and Fitz, like I said, they develop a relationship, and Mac is really able to help Fitz kind of zero in on what he's trying to say. And he sticks up for Fitz, and I like that. I like seeing that dynamic of, because Fitz is a little bit lost here, and he needs somebody to pull him back. And Mac is able to do that this episode. He's able to translate, because over the course of the episode, Fitz keeps saying, in regards to the absorbing man problem, Fitz keeps saying, I didn't solve this today, I didn't solve this today, I didn't solve this today. And nobody really understands what he's saying. But Mac gets it. Mac says, are you saying you didn't solve this today, but something you solved previously is going to be used to help you solve this? Or you solved this problem previously, or you're looking for a past invention that you have. And so that they're able to work together and kind of traverse that injury, I think is a nice addition to the story, and a cool way to bring Fitz back a little bit, because Fitz is lost, and he, like I said, he needs somebody, and Mac is a cool character. That's a cool way to introduce a new character, to have him be that sidekick, shoulder to cry on for Fitz. And in my predictions video, I thought it might have been May, but May seems a little bit busy with Coulson. And May and Coulson have a bit in this episode where they're, May is talking to Sky, and they're talking about how Coulson might not be necessarily 100% okay, but May is like, you know what, relax, he's fine. And then as soon as they're behind closed doors with May and Coulson, May is like, you realize you're not fine, right? You realize something's going on, and it's been 18, 16 days since you had an episode. And so we learn more in this episode about Coulson's reaction to the serum, and he starts to it's revealed that he has a compulsion almost to draw these symbols that he's been fighting for about 20 or so days. And so May has been helping him fight through that. She's been helping him also document these symbols and take pictures and kind of cover up afterwards, after he's drawn these on the wall in his office. I assume, because they roll out the plastic and all that stuff, I assume they just plaster over it and pretend that nothing's going on there. And speaking about these symbols, we learn in the episode that the obelisk is connected to these symbols, and the symbols kind of pop out on the obelisk when you touch it. And so over the course of the episode, the absorbing man is trying to trade the obelisk off to Hydra, but that's interrupted, and that's interrupted when Hunter kind of goes rogue, and he stuns Sky and May, and then tries to kill the absorbing man during the handoff as kind of revenge for Izzy's death and for Idaho's death. And so at that point, we see a familiar face, the woman in the flowered dress. What's her name? Nina? No. The woman in the flowered dress. I don't know her name. She steals the obelisk, and she takes it to her boss, who I will get to in a minute. But that whole thing with Hunter and Coulson and Talbot, that's resolved in that, Coulson, before Hunter gets in a fight with the Absorbing Man, and Coulson comes up with Fitz's invention, and he stabs the Absorbing Man in the back, and he scrambles the guy's sort of DNA so that he can't focus on any particular element, and he succumbs to the obelisk after he's not able to keep it at bay anymore because he's not able to change his molecules and all that stuff. So Coulson and Hunter have a conversation and a back and forth where Coulson reveals that he knew all about Hunter's possible betrayal and all this stuff, and all the $2 million that Talbot offered him, and they're pretty much on the same page. They're not gonna he's not gonna betray him for Talbot, but Coulson wants him to set up a meet on the pretense that he's gonna betray Coulson to Talbot. So at the end, Coulson and Talbot meet and they have a conversation, and Coulson says, "You know what? We can still be on the same team here. I got the Absorbing Man. You can have him. He's in the van, but lock him up somewhere a little bit safer than where you put him last episode." And Talbot pretty much laughs at his face and says, "You know what? You guys couldn't rob a convenience store if you wanted to. I don't really think you're in a position to negotiate." And Coulson does something really clever where he pretends to be more powerful than he is. He shows the Quinjet with the invisibility cloak, and he shows the bus with the invisibility cloak, and they get out of there before the actual situation sets in, where they're out of fuel and they don't have as much manpower as they're perceived to have. So they get out of there really quickly before that sort of show of force can kind of be interpreted any other way than they're powerful. So then, wrapping things up here again, like I said, Raina, that's her name, Raina. She comes back in this episode, and she is revealed not to be working with Hydra, but actually to be working with, I assume, this is Sky's father, because he talks about, bring me my daughter and I'll do something. I forget what he says, but he says, bring me my daughter. So I assume this is Sky's father that she's working with. And he seems to have some kind of a knowledge of the obelisk, because he tells her to pick it up. And when she does, instead of killing her, it kind of glows a little bit orangish glow. And we see more of these symbols. And she's able to hold it. And he says it allowed her to live. So I'm wondering maybe if this is, I don't know. There are a lot of theories and spoilers and stuff like that out there about what this might be. And if you're inclined to go ahead and look at those, and discuss those. But I don't know if it's maybe an infinity gem or something like that, because those are very similar. There's a very similar sort of occurrence in a Marvel movie recently where something like that is talked about, where one of these gems allowed certain people to harness their power, and other people were kind of overwhelmed by it. So maybe that's the case, and I think that would be sort of a intriguing way to take the Marvel Cinematic Universe, is to introduce one of these Infinity Gems on the small screen rather than on the larger movie screen. So that sort of wraps up my thoughts on the general goings on in this episode. Just general thoughts overall. Like I said, I'd like to see the Fitz Grant confrontation. This episode felt like more of a part 2 than anything else, than a standalone episode, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I can't help but wonder if maybe they did a 2-hour premiere, if that would have served the story a little bit better than just having these be 2 separate episodes. I like Mac as a new character. already. We didn't see him in the first episode, but he played a huge part, like I said, in this episode. And I like him and his sort of big brother mentality when it comes to Fitz. And he's not necessarily as smart as the rest of the team. He has a line where he says, some people can play a tune by memory. I need sheet music. So he's got that wit, but he's also got that protective big brother sort of attitude. And I like that. I want to see more of that. And I want to see maybe if he goes out into the field with Fitz, or if he and Fitz confront Grant, or if something happens to Fitz and somebody confronts Fitz. I want to see how Mac reacts to that. We saw the S.H.I.E.L.D. relationship kind of expounded on in this episode as well. And Sky and Coulson are a lot farther away than I anticipated they would be leading into the second season. I mean, if you go back into the second episode, I think she calls him director and sir and all this different stuff. And if you go back in season 1, she's talking about, AC, Agent Coulson, Phil, first name basis type stuff and all these nicknames and everything. And if you go into this episode, she's very professional with him. And I think she's hurt by how far he's drifted from her. And I think she's hurt that she doesn't feel that he trusts her as much. And I think that was illustrated really well in her physicality and, like I said, in her word choice when she says, the director, Coulson, all this type of stuff. May and Coulson, that relationship has, again, been expounded on in this episode, and how May's pretty much babysitting Phil, and it's kind of almost the way a nurse would look after somebody during withdrawal, because he's withdrawing from these effects of the serum, and they're managing his symptoms in a very methodical, like I said, nurse-like way. And to see more of that over the course of the season, I think is going to be interesting. And I think how long can they keep this secret, particularly from, like I said, Sky, who's struggling with this new dynamic on the team. Hunter, at the end of the episode, he gets offered a permanent position with S.H.I.E.L.D. basically because, as they say in the conversation, basically they need the bodies and they need skilled agents. And to see the effects of this first 2 episodes on Hunter's dynamic with the team is going to be interesting, because he stuns May and he stuns Sky, so they obviously don't trust him as much moving forward here, because he's a mercenary and all this stuff. But again, I want to see more of the loyalty being in question. I want to see more of Hunter saying, there is a point where I will betray the team. He talks to Talbot. He says $2 million. So maybe he is in it for the money. Maybe he's just trying to earn their trust and going for the long haul here and eventually betray the team. Finishing up here, Hydra, we saw the guy from the first episode, whose name I now know is Whitehall. He's the guy from the flashback. He's got a little bit grayer hair. He is working with Hydra, and he is the main Hydra guy, so I want to see what his deal is and how he will interact with Raina and with this guy who Raina's working with, but also how he'll interact with S.H.I.E.L.D. Because we saw that because their channel was interrupted, they kind of threw a curveball, and they changed up the way that they communicated with the Absorbing Man. So obviously they're on their toes, and they're both, S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra are both kind of move for move, tit for tat type scenario. And to see that and how that shakes out over the course of the season is going to be pretty cool. With that said, I think that'll wrap up my thoughts on this episode. And overall, like I said, I would have enjoyed it more maybe if it was tied closer to that first episode, and if it was a 2-hour premiere. But it wasn't a poor episode. Visually, it looked pretty good. I like to see the improvements over the first season visually and with effects and stuff. I didn't not like it. So with that said, that'll be my review of Season 2, Episode 2 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Tomorrow, I'm going to put out Season 1, Episode 2 of Scorpion, my review of that. And Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. premieres on ABC at 9 p.m. on Tuesdays. So if you want to watch that with me, go ahead and watch that. Follow me on Twitter at the DH Reviews. Like these videos if you enjoyed the reviews. That helps me out a lot. Subscribe if you want to see the more of my videos. Like I said, my Scorpion video is coming out later this week, and then on Mondays, on Tuesdays, pardon, I do Gotham reviews. So if you want to see those, subscribe and you'll see those as they come out. Comment if you have anything you want to add to my review here, or anything that I might have missed, or anything that you disagree with. I'm open to discussion and comment down below. And with that said, I've been Dharma Helper, and I will see you guys in the next video.